I'll begin my introduction. I'm Dr. Manivannan, founder and managing director of Kaveri Group of Hospitals. Kaveri Hospital was started in Tamil Nadu in a tier 2 town, Trichy, in 1999 with 30 beds. Myself and my friends started this as a 30-bedded hospital. Last 20 years, we have grown to a 1,200 bedded hospital with 7 branches, and we are a 500 crore turnover company as of now. And I'm a first generation entrepreneur. I just don't know anything about management. I was just taught how to treat patients, not manage a hospital. So we suffered a lot. And because of this, in 2006, I started the Medicall, India's largest medical equipment exhibition, which was started to help small and medium hospitals to purchase good equipments at a reasonable cost. And we also have a lot of seminars during that exhibition where we talk about hospital management issues. That seminar is named as Everything They Fail to Teach You at Medical College. We used to talk about whatever they fail to teach you about medical college, about hospital management. And I also started a IT company because I found a lot of hospitals are having issues with IT. So it is called Agile Health, and around 20 hospitals currently run on that IT. And this session was the Madras Chamber of Commerce. We started a financial management program in January. And 2 sessions happened, and 3rd and 4th sessions now happen online. It's a very interesting program. We'll share that program with you also. We are planning to have 2nd batch also about that. And last time we had a very interesting session on financial management during this crisis. And this time we would like to have about employee management, which is very important at this time of crisis. And we have a very eminent participant, Mr. Ganesh. Ganesh, please introduce yourself, Ganesh.
Yeah, thank you, doctor. And thank you, Madras Chamber of Commerce. And good morning to all. And I hope you're all safe and taking care of yourself and families. And I'm an HR professional for the last 26 and a half years. So started my career in 1993. So my last assignment was with Manipal Group, where I was heading the HR functions for Manipal Hospital, which has 11 network of hospitals, both in India and Malaysia. So we were having around 8,000 employees strength there. And and then I also was heading the HR for Manipal Group in terms of their education businesses. So for the last couple of months, now I'm on a sabbatical path. So this is just a brief about me and my profession.
Okay. How do you ensure the safety of the employees? The most important thing in this fight is frontline warriors like our nurses, doctors. We have found that the high number of deaths in probably Italy or the front-end warriors. The primary thing is the preparation. We need to be prepared for this. If you are not prepared, then we will face a difficulty in their health actually. One thing is preparation is the WHO got clear protocols of PPE usage, guidelines of how to handle asymptomatic, symptomatic and sick patients. So those protocols have to be customized according to Indian standards or standards according to your state or your hospital. It has to be customized and clearly given to the employees and the people, and they have to be trained actually. That's very important. In spite of giving a lot of PPEs and other things, the employee can get infected because they are not trained properly. So what we did in our hospital was we took a video and we played the video in all the hospitals, and we ensured that every 3 days the staff see that video, because without seeing that, it's reiterating these things are very important in this time. The second thing what we did is we created buddies actually, buddy program, where we had for every award or something, we had 1 or 2 buddies. Their role is just stand there and observe whoever is not wearing proper PPE, proper infection control program. These people will say that, no, you have to wear the PPE. We have to train the staffs that in case of pandemic, nothing is an emergency unless you wear the proper PPE. So supply of good PPEs and training of employees, reiterating once again, because by this time, the last 2 months, employees will be tired and they will just fail to do the proper protection protocol. So these are 3 important things. We need to get adequate PPEs, get the right SOP and train them. And also with the buddy program, we need to reiterate every few days so that they will not forget it. And Ganesh, from your side, is there anything you'd like to add, Ganesh?
Yeah, I think you have covered all the points, doctor, but I'll just put it in a kind of a bullet points. So when you look at safety, especially at this point in COVID, see, in an hospital, safety is very important, even whether it is COVID or not a COVID situation. And you are responsible for yourself first, and you are responsible for all the employees around you, and also the people who are coming from outside and walking into your hospital. Their safety is also important. So that doesn't change whether it is COVID or not a COVID situation. But in COVID situation, you have to do extra things because it might affect the health of the people immediately. So therefore, the 3 or 4 things that you need to look is that first is the workplace itself. How the hospital is being, functioning at this point of time when the COVID is this. How is your infection control? Whether your infection control team is doing a proper job, whether they are doing a sanitizations and all those stuff, so that you are free from this infection in that workplace, because anyway you have to come and work in that place. Therefore, you have to ensure that the workplace is free of this infection. Maximum hardest effort to be done. The second is the work arrangement. Because the people now will work tirelessly because they have to take care of the people, but at the same time they should not spoil their health. So what you do in terms of their work arrangements, how the work schedule is being arranged, did they give a proper sleep, they get a proper rest, and how the place is, how the accommodation is being done, the travel is done, food is available for them. So those are the things that you need to take in terms of a work arrangement. The training is very, very important. The first thing is that creating an awareness, because the government, who has given a norms, there are a lot of guidelines is being given by the central government, and there is a lot of training. If you look at it from AIIMS, have done it for nursing people, where how to treat a patient if they have a COVID symptoms and what all the precautionaries that you need to do. And this has to be a regular training programs that you need to arrange. Whether a person who is handling a patient, COVID patient or not, who is working in the back end, should all get exposed to this kind of a training so that everybody is aware what is the situation that is currently prevailing. So that is there. The fourth one, engagement, what doctor talked about, the buddy arrangement, and that is a very important. So you need to look at how you engage people. So one of the hospital, in fact, it was asked, I was talking to them and giving some consultations to them. So the safety is not for the employees alone, because the families who are spread out now, they are worried about the safety of their own family members who's working there in an hospital, how safety are. So what we did as an engagement program is that we took a small video of each individual, and then they talked about themselves and say that how safe they are, how well protected by the company. And then these videos are personalized and sent it to their family members. So the family members also got a lot of aspiration, and they also feel confident. Yes, my family member, my son or daughter working in that hospital is good. So these are kind of engagement that, though it is a smaller things, but it matters a lot of things. Then you also look at the benefits and facilities, whether you are covering them in the medical insurance. If their insurance is already there, whether COVID has been part of the insurance, so that gives them a lot of comfort that if something happens to me, there is some protection has happened for me. So that is there. And the final one is that you need to communicate. There has to be a lot of communication, and there has to be an open communication to the people, which gives them a lot of comfort. So in the safety part of it, you need to also So this is from my side, the 5 or 6 aspects that you need to look at when it comes to safety.
No, I think you have covered everything. Yes, sir. We can move on to the next one.
In fact, in this, to add to what both of them have said, there is 12 courses in different languages have been uploaded by government from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So that is another thing which you can go along with the online training programs what AIIMS is doing. And now we're going to the next question. When Mr. Ganesh was telling it that people in the home front should be happy, there is a big team of people which are working from home, like work from home for back office staff, which has been told by Dr. Manivan. Can you explain on that much? How we are doing it?
Then so basically work from home as a concept was there in the IT field for a very long time, but hospital we haven't done because obviously the doctors or nurses cannot work from home actually. So we haven't thought about it. But what we realized is over a period of time, we invested a lot of resources on good IT systems with all the network safety and other things. And we had around 130 laptops with our backend staffs like finance, purchase, IT, and a lot of other people were having those things. So when lockdown was announced, we made them work from home. We gave connectivity through VPN to our server. They were able to access our server. In fact, 100% of my finance staff are working from home, 90% of my purchase staff working from home, and also 100% of my IT staffs are working from home. Apart from this, we want to relieve the front-end staffs about all these clerical work, and all the clerical work is taken in the back end. For example, the daily patient reports and all those payments, so many things are taken care of by backend. For example, billing. We do a lot of billing activity from backend, and so that front end, only one person is there to handle the billing, so that we limit the exposure of these staffs. So I feel that this corona has given an opportunity. Of course, IT teams have said 90% of their staff are going to work from home in the future also. But what advantage of this is they work from home. The office space is relieved. We reduce the cost of the office space, transport costs, and so many things are relieved. So a lot of interesting concepts will come. Ganesh, can you tell your experience, Ganesh?
Yeah, sure, doctor. See, basically, certain industries have a very strong mindset that we can only work from a particular place. And that is being kind of challenged now in the situation. So this is a situation where we are being pushed back. And therefore, there is a lot of, mindsets are opening, a lot of possibilities, and we are exploring a lot of possibilities, what we can do. If, in fact, in Manipal, 7 years back, we have kind of want to increase the beds, because we occupy places in a very prime location. And then we also have all the back-end offices also in the hospitals. So that therefore, there is no opportunity for us to increase the bed capacity. So what we have done is we moved all the support functions to a separate office there. That is the thing that we can do at that point of time. Now, when we can do it, moving that office into a separate building, now we can always treat that as work from home also. So we can move those people and ask them to work from home. So there are a lot of exploring opportunities. See, initially when you're doing this, you should also look at the maturity of the organization. Second is whether your IT capability is strong. These are the two things that you need to look at. And third thing is the composition of your people, because hospital is highly touch point oriented, and it is a highly a feedback organization. The moment every individual in the hospital will have a touch point with the patient, who is ultimately your customer, which is not in the case of other organization. And simultaneously, the feedback from the customer is also instant. It happens very instantly. So protecting this too, you need to look at the roles of the people. So who are basically form part of your hospital? Your nurses, paramedical staff, your non-clinical people who have a high end of patient touch. Then you have a back-end people, your support functions managers. So look at all those items and then see who are the people. If I remove it, still I will not lose that personal touch with the customer, and still my feedback is going to be intact. Move that kind of a role to an work from home position. So that is the one thing that we need to do as an exercise, and move those rules out there. And it's going to happen now. With all the technology grooming, it's going to happen.
Again, it's absolutely true. There are two interesting things which I would like to highlight here is, one is we have moved certain interesting people also. Say, for example, we had a call center. We moved all the call center from Chennai to Trichy. And Trichy, we had multiple 5 people working from home, attending calls and all those things. So those concepts we had invested earlier, but we never used it, but now we use it actually. So 80% of the call center has been moved to home. That is one interesting thing. The another interesting thing is what we are now looking into is, for example, certain positions in tier 1 city are costly. For example, I need a middle-level finance guy in Chennai. It will cost at least 40,000-50,000 rupees for me. But whereas when I move to a tier 2 town working from home with all the data security in place, I'll get the same person for 25,000, 50% of the cost. So there is a very great opportunity to reduce the cost, improve the work, as well as continue our whatever service we have been doing. I think these are some interesting concepts emerging from this COVID experience.
Correct.
And Mr. Ganesh, as a question to you, how do you ensure we can have the question back still. How do you ensure that the motivation of the employees are taken care of? Doctors, for example, when they are working from home, how do you ensure the integrity? How do you ensure the motivational aspects of the employees? And what is the HR role's importance in it?
See, the question is, that's what I'm saying. So we should not look at an hospital as an industry where this kind of an issue, whether the stress level, whether motivation, the safety, this is all, it's part of the industry itself, that we need to we should have taken care right from the beginning. It's not that this situation has happened and therefore there is going to be a high level of motivation. But working from home, it's a new concept for everybody. And even an IT company where we are talking about, we're only working as 20% earlier. Now they're thinking of moving it to 50%. So nobody has actually practiced or perfected the art of working from home. So you will still have that initial hiccups in terms of this. And especially like industry, like hospitals have never had any work from home. And if you're looking at it, that's what I said, you need to have that tools which are important. That is, the IT capability should be very strong, and the capabilities, that means the people should be able to train themselves well in terms of using the technology. And the second thing is also, there is a lot of mechanism in terms of looking at how the work from home has to happen. Like say for simple motivation, let's say when you have an arrange a meeting in an office, right? The boss may take some time to come, right? The other employees won't mind it, right? Even if the boss takes a 5 minutes or 10 minutes delay, they will be chit-chatting there. But that cannot happen in a work from home. The boss have to be extremely disciplined. If he fixed a meeting at 10 o'clock, he should be the first person to be in the meeting at 10 o'clock. If he doesn't appear at 10 o'clock, then that is the trust level there. And that is a motivation. That becomes a less motivation factor for the people. So it starts from the managers, it starts from the leader. How do we project ourselves in terms of in this kind of a situation and create that kind of an ownership and then pass it on to those people. And there has to be a lot of tracking mechanism through IT. That means whether you have logged in, whether there can be an objective goal setting in terms of it. So people could able to do that if their expectations are set very clearly, and they also know in terms of what is the outcome. So it should be more in terms of an outcome-based approach that you should look at it.
That's
when
very
you do an outcome-based approach, then the motivation will be very high.
Yeah, then absolutely true. As Ganesh said, motivation, suddenly you can't motivate employees when COVID has come. It has to be a part of the culture of the organization. It has to be motivated by walk the talk. The top management, whoever owner, doctor, or the manager has to be there when the crisis happens. And say we need to be visible to them when the crisis happens. Say, for example, in our hospital, I just asked them to, the PPE kit, in Tamil Nadu when it is very hot. And in Trichy, especially my place is very hot. You wear a PPE kit and ask the staff to stay there for 6 hours in a non-air conditioned ward. It's really difficult. So I asked my HR team to do a PPE challenge. Okay, that is in the internet parlor. You do, so you wear the PPE for 6 hours, go and sit in the ward and see whether you are able to do it. Then you'll understand the problem of the employees. So motivation is here. One thing is if we take care of their basic needs like food, accommodation, and transport and all those things, employee will be motivated. And if the leaders are there regularly with them, talking to them and handling the patients, then they will be motivated. Money is the last thing which motivates in this situation.
And Doctor, another thing on that same angle, you being the owner of Kaveri and you being the founder, what about the town halls and what about the interaction that has happened from your side to the employees?
Yeah, say what happened. Yeah, I mean, normally I used to address employees in whichever unit once in a month. Whenever I go there, I used to address at least 30-40 employees. But now that is not possible. So what happened, I did a video recording of few messages and sent it to everyone through WhatsApp actually. That has acted well, and I did an audio record and sent it to them. And I ensured that I talked to key staffs in Chennai or any other place, wherever there is staff in front-ending staff. I just call them up and say hello to them. And these things motivated them.
Okay. See, one of the takeaways, if you ask me on the moderation, is it's from the founder to the last mile person. Communication, engagement, and stick to your basics. I think that is what is being conveyed by Mr. Ganesh as well as Dr. Manivandan. Yeah. And since we have spoken on regarding the question of IT and role of IT in HR, we are already highlighted by, it has been highlighted by both Mr. Ganesh and Manivandan. But one interesting thing which I'm going to the question number 6 is, again, it is related to motivation, though you said money is not a criteria, but at the end of the day, when there is a sharp drop in revenue, do we cut employee salary or how you manage the situation?
It's a very interesting and difficult question. The most difficult situation I faced in the last 20 years of my this entrepreneurial journey is cutting down the employee salary and cutting down the number of employees. In the last 20 years, not even a single day we have paid beyond the last day of the month. Every last day of every month we have paid, not even a single day. We have delayed. When we had financial crisis, the top management took a cut in their salary and we paid them. Yes, in this situation is different. We are running at 50% of whatever the budgeted or previous year. That's what the situation is as of now in most of the hospitals. We can't be continuing to run and pay people everything in spite of all this crisis. So what we have done is, first thing is the cost cutting. We have cut down a lot of other peripherals. We have stopped advertisement. We have deferred the loan payment. We have deferred the rental payment. We got discounts on the rental payments. And then we have discussed with the vendors and asked them for a deferred payment. All these things brought in some cash flow. In spite of these cash flows, what we have found is we had to cut down few employees and salaries. What we did is a salary cut. The top management took a lead where we took a 50% cut. The second is high paid employees more than 1 lakh. So they took a cut of 25%. Then we didn't cut for any employee less than 30,000. 30,000 to 1 lakh took a 5% cut. Less than 30,000, we haven't cut any employee. That accounts for 95% of my employees actually. So with all these cost cut down measures, we are able to maintain cash flow. So now this month, what we have, since it is continuing, what we have done is, we have done a performance appraisal somewhere in March. Okay. Some employees whom we thought that they are below the par expectation. So we have spoken to them and we have asked them to get relieved. Some people got relieved, or some people we said for next 3 months, we will not pay you. And if 3 months later, when the number revenue picks up, we will take you back. So this we did. And whatever cut was in the salary or in the number of employees, we did mostly in the back end, not in front end. And of course, we spoke to the doctors, and doctors who are on payroll, they voluntarily accepted for a cut. And many people said, we'll go for fee for service mode. You need to give us a fixed pay. Whatever money revenue comes, we'll take. And 75% of them opted for this because we had a very good relationship with the doctors. So these things improved our cash flow. So this is what we have done in our hospital, and probably we can fine tune according to individual hospital needs. Ganesh probably manages a bigger employee force, so you'll be able to give us inputs.
Excellent, doctor. One thing, Mr. Ganesh, your views, please. But one thing I would like to want you to explain is, for example, I'm sure there in the crowd there will be a lot of small-time hospitals, and I'm not sure how many HR managers will be there or something. But what is the tool or the mode in which you convey these tough messages, what Dr. Manivannan said, whether it's appraisal during this time or when somebody is asked to? The top line is fine, but still, how do you ensure that it is done on a nice way and without affecting the psychological aspects of it? And other than that, you can comment on other things. This is one
so
of the
one thing I keep telling is, Corona will come and go, but our hospital will be there forever. So we need to ensure that all our stakeholders, let it be doctors, employees, patients, or let it be investors, bankers, vendors, all of them, we need to ensure, we need to communicate to them and convey our problem and make them part of our solution. Okay. If you do that, the relationship will be there for a longer time.
So Ganesh, to you.
Yeah. So, see, this is a very toughest part in an HR role. Actually, if you look at this, asking people to go or touching something where the livelihoods get affected, because they would have had some level of standards that they would have built it up over a period of time, and then suddenly reducing the salary will reduce the level of standards. So it will have more than the money, it will have an impact on the status and also the psychological effect. Because the moment you touch anybody's self-respect in terms of a status, that's where they become very defensive. So you need to address that part, how they should not be very defensive, and how you have to address that part, because that touching the self-respect is very, very important. So what you need to do certain things before you go even into an employee salary is that first make these people aware. So if you had been a part of an organization or a culture, you would have been every month or in every frequently, you would have appraised the organization, even when they were doing well, saying that we were doing well, we were not doing well, we should be able to do well. So obviously the company, the employees would have come to know at this situation, we would not have been doing well because of this situation. So the communication should have been very transparent and continuous. saying that where are we at this point of situation. That's very, very important. So that gives them a kind of a factual figure. Yes, this is what is happening. The second thing you also have to see, okay, now you have been making profit, but now can I sustain this business if I have to look at it? Can I look at a break even at this point of time? Now, if I have a break even by looking at, like what doctor has said, cutting at other peripherals, that means cutting the marketing expenses, cutting the rentals, delaying the rentals, what all other line items that you need to do, whether can I do those kind of a line items? And that includes the HR also, because HR sometimes we tend to have a lot of leakages in our normal payments itself. So whether can we address those HR leakages, whether we can, in fact, when I look at an HR cost, we break that into 3 costs. So we have a salary cost, we have an indirect, which is more of in terms of a benefits, whether your leave, encashments, your insurances and all those stuff, OT and all will come as a benefits. The third one is the engagement cost. So what is that in that cost I will touch first. So if I had an engagement cost, which I was spending it, can I not incur that part of it? So that still I'm protecting the salary. The second one in terms of the benefits, whether can I defer those benefits rather than paying it this year so that there is a cash flow which can be retained. For example, we have a practice of leave accumulation and leave payment. The accumulated leaves are paid. Now, whether can I defer that for the next year rather than paying it now so that I will still have my cash flows intact. So when you exhaust all these processes, then when we go into the salary cuts. Now, when you look at salary before salary cuts, you need to take a 1 or 2, 3 steps, whether have it taken in terms of, okay, this time there will be no increments, there will be no promotions, right? So at least the existing salaries and the jobs are protected. Then if that option is also exhausted, then I have no other option. I have to do certain things, even touch a break even. Then my salary cut should start from the senior leadership team, what doctor has talked about, because that is the walk the talk. That will give a lot of trust among the people. And that has to be communicated across. It is not that you cut the salary and then keep quiet. It has to be communicated that, hey, the leader has taken a very important and high level of cut. And then it also cascaded down to the managers. So when the managers speak to the employees knows the managers who is talking to me has also taken the cut. It should not be that managers has not taken the cut and then asking an employee to go. It will send a very wrong message to the people. So therefore, the people who are talking to an employee should also have undergone certain kind of a cut in this. And therefore, when he talks, there is a credibility. And you also have to be sure of this. This situation is not going to be permanent. And tomorrow, when we bounce back after 6 months, you need this kind of people. When your bed occupancy is going to be increased from 50 to 90, you need these people. So therefore, when you look at these people as your ambassadors, future ambassadors of your organization, that means when they leave this organization also, they talk very high about you, is what they have to ensure that. So therefore, your communication should be from that perspective, that even if I disengage him now, I'm going to ensure that after 6 months and everything is normal, this is the person who's going to come back, or he's going to recommend another 10 people to come back to this organization. If that is done, I think that's the way the communication should be with the employees.
Good. Well, he has covered almost everything.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll go to the next. Yeah.
Both of you. And now, in terms when we are looking at, though we have discussed, next question, please, you can remove this question. Which are the roles that can be outsourced? Because that is the question which we should look in. Which are the roles that can be outsourced?
Oh, yeah. Which are the roles which can be outsourced? That's a very interesting, that's a very interesting question. Probably when Ganesh will answer, I'll just give a brief. Generally, I was very against outsourcing employees in healthcare, because what I feel is we are in a service industry. Normally, outsourced employee may not imbibe our culture, even let it be housekeeping or F&B or whatever it is. Outsourced, what we have done is, in my tier 1 town, we have outsourced our housekeeping F&B services. But whereas in all other towns, we have our own F&B services and housekeeping, security, whatever it is. Okay, because we are able to have a better connect with employees, and the culture is very important even in this divisions. The another interesting thing where we have outsourced is IT, actually. IT hardware support, entire hardware we have outsourced it to another person. Of course, software division we had, but hardware we have outsourced last year. That was very interesting. We are able to manage with lower cost as well as better safety. But we need to be very careful to whom we are outsourced. Service level standards have to be seen. Those things we need to be very careful. And now what happened, another interesting thing which has happened is we have removed certain finance employees because they were overstaffed. So we removed certain finance employees and we have given them an option. 3 of them will work from home for a half a salary. And they will take certain functions like vendor payments or doctor fee payment. Only few payment modules they will do. It is kind of a semi-outsourced to my ex-employees. They said they are happy. There are women employees who are family and who can't travel during this time. And they're very happy taking a cut in the salary as well as they were able to do it. And of course, payroll, many hospitals are outsourced. We also outsourced payroll function. And that takes away a lot of headaches. And these are few things which we have outsourced in our organization. And probably Ganesh, which is rich experience, can tell what other functions can be outsourced earlier and now, actually. Ganesh.
Yeah. So like what doctor has talked about certain position, we have also done that, like F&B and IT hardware, because those are the things that we can do it at a back-end operations. But like I said, industry, the hospital has a very high touch point and an instant feedback mechanism is in place. You need to build a culture because every hospital can be differentiated based on the service. The USP of an hospital is primarily on the service. What is the service that the experience? Rather, I'll put that as an experience. Because the clinical services are given, because nobody is going to walk into your hospital if your clinical services are bad. So therefore, that is given. Your clinical experiences should be at the top. So considering that, because your customer is not only a patient who is going to walk into your hospital, a patient is going to walk along with 10 more people along with him, because the 10 more people is going to experience your workplace. And therefore, the experience is determined by the people, your employees, because those are the employees who can actually give you that kind of an experience. And that experience will result into a 10x of your revenue. In fact, I was doing an article study. So if you have to build your revenue, your employees should focus on your customer experiences. And therefore, if you have to have that, then you need to have some kind of a control on your own staff to give that experience. Hello?
Yeah.
If we are outsourced the people who are highly touch point oriented, it becomes extremely difficult because the industry also faces challenges like you have a high level of attrition. It may go even from 30% to 40-45%. That means if you have 1,000 employees, 450 people will leave you every year. And maintaining a certain standard of excellence or experience is extremely difficult even if you have managed with an own employee. And that will go higher in terms of an outsourced employee. And that is, in fact, in housekeeping and other places, we experience an attrition of around 60 to 70% in outsourced. So you will not able to maintain that standards there. So therefore, you need to look at people where there is not much of an high touch points, where they are not coming and having any interactions with your customers or customer related people. Those are the jobs that you need to identify and outsource to. And that can be done very well. And we have been done in terms of F&B, in terms of all the support functions where it is like I removed it from the hospital to another office. Those are the things that you can actually do outsourcing.
Okay. Now, leading to the next question out of this, after we have spoken on engagement and then outsource, whether there should be any stop the new recruitment at all or should you recruit?
Yeah, that's an important point.
Yeah.
So first thing which we announced after this pandemic started is one is top advertisement, okay, rental deferment, okay, and the third thing is top new recruitment, okay. That's very important. We stopped the complete recruitment the last 2 months. There is no single employee was recruited. But off late, what we have started getting is, of course, now we have decided to recruit only clinical staff if required. Yes, we started having a demand for clinical staffs wherever there are increased number of patients. So we are going on a recruitment mode only for clinical staffs. Apart from that, we have stopped all recruitments. Ganesh?
Yes, I fully agree with you, Doctor. I think that is the best way to approach this situation. Stop all the recruitments first, and then look, if we have to take recruitments, first focus on the clinical sides. And that is where it is very important. When I say clinical, it includes your paramedical technical staff, your nurses, and the doctors. That should be given the priority based on in terms of your revenue generation. That means you see some kind of a workload increasing, and therefore there is a gap between your current staff and the future. Therefore, you have to take it. Second, if you also feel, if you have to look at from a culture and a credibility point of it, where you have already asked certain people to go because of the situation, and if you feel that there is a requirement suddenly coming up because of the workload, it's always better to go back to those people who are performers, but they have to leave the job because of the situation, call them back. But otherwise, no fresh recruitments is required at this point of time.
Absolutely. I mean, to add to that, to say, well, for example, we were discussing with a super specialist in my tier 2 town. For the last 6 months, we have been negotiating. We have fixed, and he was supposed to join in May. And we didn't want to lose him. So what we spoke to him was, say, since in this situation, can we take a 50% cut in your salary? And then we finally decided not 50% cut, 25% cut, 25% deferred pay. We are going to pay in December. So we didn't want to lose that particular candidate from a good institution. So we have to customize according to our requirement or individual unit requirement. We can't have a blanket rule for everyone.
Correct.
And another interesting thing is when you started this question, you said, I can understand the deferment of the rentals, but advertisement, do you think you should reduce or you should completely stop? Just a quick one.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is we have completely stopped the ATL promotion, above the line promotions like paper, TV, and we have stopped. Of course, we started focusing on social media at a zero cost, near zero cost. Actually.
Yeah, so it is at a zero, use the best of the digital media than going for the ATL and activities. That is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and more so, I heard Mr. Ganesh saying there are a lot of videos about the organization being sent to the employees. That's also a big branding exercise in terms of relatives and inner people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now coming back to from people engagement.
The best advertisement is the word of mouth.
Word of mouth nowadays. Yeah.
The word of mouth even at this situation, especially if a patient walking into your hospital and especially at this COVID time, how you taking care of the people and how your employee is providing that experience will talk much more than what it used to be. So then I think that is what you need to promote, that this word of mouth at this point of time, providing that experience to those patients is going to be permanent for them.
Absolutely. And here I would like to add how you remove the fear amongst the staff, amongst the people or any customers coming into the hospital, the fear of getting attracted to COVID. That is if that basic thing is taken care by all the employees in a nice way, I'm sure the word of mouth will be good.
Correct.
Now coming to the other auxiliaries, for example, PPEs, how to manage the demand of PPEs. Doctor was touching. People have to first get practice to use the PPEs, but at the same time, when the cases go up or something, you hope that doesn't turn up. But how do you manage this PPEs and the critical kits which everyone like to have?
Yeah, basically what happened, initial period there was a shortage of PPEs, but India has proved once again that we can spring back to any crisis, and now we have become second largest PPE manufacturer in the world actually. So except for some demand for N95 masks, other PPE kits are now available. Earlier we were getting it for somewhere around 800 to 1,000 rupees, a good quality full overall PPEs. But now we are getting it for 400 rupees. So now we are able to cut down the cost as well as provide to more staffs. And our people have become innovative. They started stitching masks and PPEs on their own. And I think a PPE shortage is not a problem in India overall.
Okay. Dr. Ganesh, anything rationalizing?
I have nothing to talk. It's Dr.
Fine. And yeah, I understand. We have come out in a very bounce back in an important critical aspect of protecting the people. And what is that additional support for staff needs to be provided to ensure business continuity? This is another important
Yeah,
question.
yeah, I think we addressed it earlier also. This is one of the important thing for motivation. Say what we did is immediately after lockdown, we started providing buses and vans to transport. In fact, a lot of other educational institutions and IT companies, they donated their buses along with driver as well as diesel. They did it to reduce the cost. When we can reach out to the corporates, they will give the buses free of cost. Then food is an important thing because many of the staffs stayed for a longer time. Initial times we had 12-hour shifts. Now we converted to 6-hour shift. And then healthy food is very important. Mostly all these hostel girls will not have healthy food. So last 3 months, we provided free food to everyone who is working in the hospital, including back-end staffs. This has motivated them significantly. And accommodation, yes, we provided accommodation within the hospital, or we took some hotels nearby or guest houses nearby, provided accommodation to staffs who are not able to travel daily to the house. And of course, the regular hostel accommodation is there. So these additional supports definitely provided. And apart from that, we provided all the medicines prescribed by the government, like chloroquine or vitamin C or vitamin D, or you name it, we provided all. In fact, in Tamil Nadu, there is a Ayurvedic medicine which they are promoting, Gabasura Kudinir. Also, we gave it to every one of our staff. And of course, our staffs, they were getting every day 2 things. One is lemon juice, another is a mint juice, which we gave them, so that it's an immunity booster. At least it was a confidence booster for them. Even if it was not an immunity booster, it was a confidence booster. So all these small things, if you provide, and for example, 2 weeks back, there was a request that the isolation ward is hot. So we provided a fridge with fully loaded cool drinks and juices and everything. Now we have provided air cooler for them because we couldn't provide AC at that particular place. So these small requirements we do. And 2 days back, we thought of doing an Amazon Prime or Netflix movie for the hostel staff. And of course, a lot of interesting movies are being released in Amazon. So we thought we'll motivate them by doing that. Yes, these are some things which we have done.
I think you've covered it all, Doctor. I think that is the basics things that we need to do. Sometimes we think of doing something extraordinary and forget the basic things. I think the basic things are very, very important. That is what they look at it. The fear, anxiety, which is created by this COVID, is basically how I'm going to survive. And the survival is the basic level of motivation. If you look at even Maslow hierarchy, it's a basic level at this point of time is what we need to focus on. Provide them a shelter, provide them a good food, healthy food, and the transport to commute, so that they know that they are not going to get infected. Even for an example, apart from this, that whether are you taking the emotional well-being of those people. For example, when one of the nurses who have been working with us have suddenly had some kind of a death in the family, and she has to travel 600 kilometers. Now she didn't know how to travel at that point of time. So the entire travel arrangement was organized by the hospital. So we arranged a vehicle. We also ensure that the vehicle doesn't stop in between for food and all. So every food arrangement is being taken care. Even we went to the extent of even connecting GPS, so that we know we were tracking the vehicle till it reached the destination point. So the employee is completely safe and motivated, saying that, hey, you are taking such a care for me. Now I know that employee, after attending all those work, is definitely going to come back to us. She's not going to leave this organization. And that is what we need to ensure. Even the smallest thing at this point of time, what makes the difference for this person, you have to do. The second thing, we are handling the situation with the COVID. Now, once the lockdown is open, you will see a lot of people wanted to go on a leave because they have separated from the family, and the family is also very anxious to meet them. Now, you suddenly you will see a spurt of leave applications. Suddenly they wanted to go. Now, how are you going to handle that situation? You need to plan it now. So you need to see how you are going to stagger the leaves, ensure that everybody goes on a leave. At the same time, your business is not suffered. Because the moment the lockdown opens up, you will see some kind of rise in your occupancy. But at the time, you don't want a situation where your staffs are not available. So it's not now. It's a continuous part that you need to look at it. And every small items which matters to the employee is very, very have to be taken care of it.
Yeah, one thing I would like to highlight, or I request when Dr. Manivan is back, what about the insurance covers? For example, at the top level and the mid level, I'm sure insurance covers would have been taken.
That is what initially when I talked about the safety of the employees, the insurance cover is taken care. So many of the hospitals will have internal Medicare. So that means they allow that. If suppose your own employee is getting there, the internal Medicare is taken. Some of them will take external Medicare facilities. So that healthcare facilities, you need to ensure that now under the current situation, whether COVID and all those things are part of that healthcare.
Okay.
And that is done, that will give some lot of flexibility for the employees.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, so we have in our hospital very clear instruction that any hospital employee admitted is treated free of cost, even before COVID. And we have taken outside insurance for some senior employees. Okay, so and at this point of time, anyone with any sickness, we have to bear it.
Okay.
I think,
now, yeah, interesting to know, Doctor. Engagement in terms of Amazon and NetBoo is in hospital. Interesting point to take care, and the amount of engagement that happens from medical field to, and it's a learning for many of the other industries as well. Now, going back to another important question is when Mr. Ganesh was touching it, like a lot of leave applications will come. This is leading to a question that what measures are taken to avoid burnout? Can we do it when the people are working? What are the measures taken to avoid burnout? Dr. Manivannan, to start with, and then I leave it to Mr. Ganesh to respond.
Yeah, I say burnout is a very important thing which we have started seeing. Just burnout is a very important thing which we started seeing now after 2 months, and we need to ensure that the employees do not work for more than, especially in isolation ward, not more than 6 hours, and we need to ensure that they are given adequate off, and we need to ensure that we have to entertain them. That's why I told about this movie time, and in fact we had a painting competition. And now we have asked one of the cine celebrity to come and talk to our staffs and motivate them. And we are having small dinners. For example, one doctor sponsored candy for all the staffs one day, and one doctor sponsored ice creams. So these are some things which they will feel that they are not. In fact, once the situation comes down to a little bit of normal, we want to have a small cultural program for the staffs, making fun of COVID and how we tackled it. And so these kind of back to normal routine activity will make them positive and hopeful about the future. So this will reduce the burnout, and definitely reducing the working time and giving them adequate off is a very important point.
Okay. Mr. Ganesh?
Yeah. So when you say burnout, it's reached a stage where you lose all your motivation and enthusiasm for your work. Even a person who is a workaholic will face this kind of a situation. So there are two people who are involved in this. One is the immediate manager. The manager should take the responsibility and cover up for their own employees. That means when doctor said that, when there is an excess workload, now the manager should ensure that how this workload is distributed among other employees so that there is an equity among in terms of a workload there. The second one is also whether I can pitch in. Because I may only tend to supervise people, but at this point of time, can I take certain kind of a workload from my own team member and start doing it wherever it is possible? Even in a clinical person, in terms of a nursing superintendent who is managing, and if the person feels it's only a supervision or managing the workforce is important, she can also manage a ward at this point of time and taking a kind of a responsibility for their own staff members. So this will certainly reduce certain kind of a burnout. The second one is the engagement, like what doctor talked about. So you need to give them a kind of a lot of space, because this creates a fear of anxiety, and especially in the time of uncertainty, you tend to make mistakes. Now, how do you address that mistakes? Whether are you going to tom about the mistake this person has done and then going to reprimand it, or you are going to do a lot of counseling and say, hey, you have done a mistake, it's okay. How do we overcome these mistakes? Is a kind of a comforting, smoothing words that you're going to talk to them is matters important at this point of time. So those are the things that we need to look at in terms of reducing the burnout of the employees at this point.
As Doctor has highlighted, we have just 10 minutes left. But what I would like to do is, though there are other 3-4 questions, I think almost we have covered it in many angles. But one of the important questions that I would like to share, and then we'll go to the questions raised by the audience. How do we develop trust in the organization? In the sense, we have spoken on the other things. And to develop trust in the organization, it's a critical factor for the business to continuously run, whether it is pre-COVID, post-COVID, or during the COVID.
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic. In fact, 5 weeks back, I wrote a mail to all my senior employees or department heads about building trust in the time of crisis. I read an article, I forwarded that, and in fact, we had a lengthy discussion of building trust among all stakeholders. As I said earlier, stakeholders is staffs, doctors, and then bankers, investors, vendors. All these people are stakeholders. Okay, patients, obviously patients actually. So building trust among employees, we'll address only building trust among employees here, not about other people, because it's a big topic. I think building trust among employees, when we are cutting down a salary, we have to communicate rightly that, look, the top management is taking 50% cut, you are getting only 10% cut. Or when you are asking some employees to go on a loss of pay leave, we are going to say that, look, when the business is coming back to normal, we will take you back. Or when you are definitely relieving an employee, we should ensure that his salary is paid on the right time. And also we should give him a promise that I will take you back if he requires. And also what we have done is 1 or 2 employees, we have arranged the employment in some other hospital also. This build trust. And also walk the talk and maintaining to whatever promises you have made and making payments or salary, even if it is a deducted salary in time, will give a lot of trust to the employees. I think this is what briefly about building trust among employees. Ganesh?
Yeah. See, this is a very huge topic by itself, developing trust. Right now, trust is it's a very long process to build a trust. It can be easy, and at the same time, it also takes a long time because it involves 2 people. So unless he believes you, and then finally it results into a trust when you know that this person is going to take care of me, and that is a long journey. So what you need to do when you have to build a trust is there are other parameters that you need to focus on. So when I say other parameters in building a trust is that basically you need to respect people. The first thing starts a trust is how you respect people, irrespective of whether they are a housekeeping person or a janitor or anybody else. Are you giving that respect as an individual? It's what the first part that you will do. Second, are you listening to them? Do you have a time to listen to them? Because this is very, very important. And if you don't listen to them, even when you talk about it, covers the safety, it covers your burnout, it covers everything. If you don't listen to a person, you are not building a trust. So the fundamentals of building a trust is that this is a behavior that you have to consistently show up. Where are you respecting people as a human being, as a fellow being? Second is, are you listening to them? Right? Whether you have an open door policy at any point of time when they come with a concern, and especially at this point of time, they will have a lot of fear and anxiety, and you can't shut doors at this point of time. So you should be open, you should be listen to them, provide them wherever there is a suggestion or advice is required. So the trust is built on 3 parts of it. How credible are you? The credibility of yours is very, very important. The second is the respect that how much you are giving to the people. And third is, are you being fair in all your dealing? That is what doctor talked about in terms of the fairness, whether if you have to reduce the salary, first of all, have you reduced your salary before you talking to them? So those are the fairness that is the thing that has to convert that into a behavior, into action at this point of time. And that is where you will build a trust. Trust is not the front, it's an output of it. So these are the behaviors that you need to show at this point of time, not only this time, where till the business continues. So it's a journey. So you need to keep on showing this behavior again and again till it becomes a habit and a culture in your organization. Then obviously, then the people will start trusting.
Thanks a lot, Madras. Thanks a lot, man. And thanks a lot to Dr. Manivandan, Mr. Ganesh, and Dr. Sridhar. It was a wonderful session. And thanks a lot for all the participants come and join sharing the session.